welcome back to Not So Giant Women, the Steven Universe podcast.
Hello.
I don't know why I'm talking so weird.
She's also doing actions, viewers.
I'm pointing at nothing. So today we're covering The Test, which is another potentially very literal title, but it tells us nothing.
I'm going with someone or something gets tested, but I don't know. Does Steven get tested? Does Steven test something? Does Steven test Steven?
Oh.
There's one way to find out.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to watch to find that out.
We are the crystal gems. We'll always save the day.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, you the man.
I knew you could do it.
Okay, we open on a rainy day with Steven and the Crystal Gems playing some strange card/board game called Kitchen Calamity, which just sounds hilarious, and I know many people would probably like to play that game. Once Steven wins this game, he goes to the cupboard to get the next game, but finds the Sea Spire from all those episodes ago, the one he forgot to take with him. Here it is in the cupboard. As he laments his failure that day and apologizes to the others, they let on that was actually a test and it wasn't a proper serious mission. And Steven is a bit hurt by this, especially when he realizes that by not taking the statuette, he failed the mission. So after Pearl digs them deeper and deeper a few times, he demands a new test. So the other three adjust the metaphysical properties of the temple, which seems to be using it like a holodeck to make him an obstacle course. The Crewniverse return to their penchant for video game-esque environments. Each gem has made a room reflecting their quirks and personalities. However, after Steven conquers the first two rooms, he gets to the last Garnet's room and finds that something that was going to squish him actually stopped before it squishes him. He then backtracks and finds that all of the rooms, despite their apparent dangers of rolling boulders and sheer drops and music puzzles, were in fact rigged to not hurt him at all, and so he could pass. He's not happy about this. He follows the rolling boulder back up through the top of the obstacle course, which enables him to get on top of everything, literally, and he sees the final point with the other three waiting, and he overhears them talking about how they hope he's all right. They need to restore his confidence. His healing powers still don't work. He's come so far. They basically just want to help and encourage him. Amethyst isn't convinced the test that's rigged for him to pass is useful, but the others say they're not sure because there's never been anyone like Steven before, but they want to try to bolster him, and it sounds like get a bit of their own confidence in what they're doing back. Steven stomps down back through the first room, stomps through all three rooms, gets to the end final stage with the three applauding him and saying congratulations over and over like they're in the last episode of Evangelion. And when they ask him how it went, he says, "I can't believe you guys," and then says that it was awesome and enthusiastically tells of how he made it through this challenging test without letting on that he knows how it was all supposed to work, and the other three are all pleased about this, and it's on this group hug that we iris back to credits. So yeah, the story pretty straightforward this week, really about some character building things as well as a throwback to Sea Spire stuff.
Yes.
When the spikes didn't squash Steven, at first I was like, well, they're not going to actually make an obstacle course that can kill you, Steven. Mm-hmm. This seems to me just a safety feature, but apparently it turns out that everything was rigged not just to not hurt him, but also to enable him to pass no matter what he did.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree they were right to not make the test lethal, but it is sad that even that music puzzle was rigged.
Yeah, I mean, there was no need to rig the music puzzle. That was the most that would have done was keep him occupied for a long time. He wouldn't have fallen or got squished or whatever.
Right. Like, I mean, they could have even extended the video game kind of feel of it by saying, you know, you have been destroyed. Now you only have 2 lives remaining, you know, and then...
Yeah. A big life count appears before him and drops down by 1.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I understand his disappointment, but I think it would have been extremely irresponsible of them as pseudo parents to actually let him have a test that could kill him. But at the same time, some of the missions they go on are very dangerous. So they've almost killed him before. So I guess the main thing is the feeling of betrayal that they're trying to give him. He wanted to prove to them that he could do it, and then he finds that they didn't have enough confidence to really test him at all. I guess putting to the side that he would have died.
As they admit,
Complicated.
they're not sure what they're doing. There's no guaranteed steps along the way they have to meet with a Stephen of whom there has been none before.
Yeah, I really thought the conversation that he overheard of the gems discussing him, it was kind of new territory for this show, because normally stuff that he has witnessed to, others are not talking in front of him. So we can see kind of adults talking to other adults about what they're really thinking. And it was just kind of especially that it was very illuminating on what they worry about with regard to him and how they don't really have confidence that they know what they're doing, but they are thinking about it and are worried about whether they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, so we didn't break the system because this talking without Stephen was still done from Stephen's point of view. They just didn't know it.
That's right. He has eavesdropped. So it's a really big episode for Stephen, because what we see here, I mean, my first reaction to this is like, oh, he's such a good kid. He's such a caring person that he decided he was going to put aside his own needs and pretend the gems had given him exactly what he needed, even though at the beginning he was expressing like, I feel disappointed in myself. I want you to go hard on me and test me. That's not what he got at all. But he was too worried about their feeling unconfident in parenting him. And it's like, oh, he turns right around and tries to give them what they've been needing, his confidence in their parenting. And it's like, Stephen, you're parenting adults.
It's the sometimes children raise you thing.
Yeah, even though there's a real sweetness to that level of his care for them, it's just also really scary that he's this self-sacrificial this early in his life, It's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, especially given that he was in full childish mode toward the start of the episode with his obsession with the games and show me a real test.
Yeah. And on the gem side, it's like seeing them be really honest about their lack of confidence was sort of like, for lack of a better word, humanizing.
Yeah, and I did like Pearl just kind of keep saying stuff that makes it worse start.
Yeah, at the beginning where she's like, oh, it should have been easier. I failed an easy test. That's not what I meant. Pearl.
Pearl also confirms what we were talking about last time, that he still doesn't have his healing powers, at least as far as she knows. So Whatever happened has been long term.
Yeah, that she wanted to create a situation where his confidence would rise and hopefully that would come back. They talked about this episode a couple of times. The people who wrote it have talked about it. And one of the things they noted about the way that they drew that scene where he's reacting to them is him kind of looking down on them from sort of above, almost this omniscient sort of perspective, was really the first time that you've seen them in this state in a couple different ways. And they enhanced that with the visual mode of the way that they presented the angle. I think I remember somebody saying, like, you don't often see the top of Garnet's head,
And it contrasted the shot from right before the game began when everyone was filmed from below, which was a pretty good shot in and of itself. Also means
when they're opening the door.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also means that it's kind of bookending the one from above a few scenes later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Weird video gamey glitch of him kind of going outside of the environment.
Yeah, I remember a video game. I don't recall which one. It was way back in the Amiga days, but that's almost exactly like a video game glitch. I remember at the time where you could literally, and it was even for the grid shapes, you could stand above and it actually had the things that were guiding the obstacles that would hurt your player inside, and you could cheat just by walking across the top and jumping down to the last stage.
Uh-huh. I remember doing that in like a Mario game, but you couldn't see above it. You could just jump on top of the scenery and just run the whole way. And I wasn't sure if that was intentional or if it was just an accident of video game physics.
Well, they ported that same glitch or whatever to a Mario knockoff we had on the Amiga as well.
Oh.
The great Guiana sisters.
Huh.
I used to see a lot of numbers filed off video games back in my youth.
Yeah. Well, you can definitely tell that the Crooniverse folks have spent a lot of time with their video game environments and their glitches. Those video gamey traps and everything. A lot of them were very similar to the serious Steven traps.
Yeah, their video game pedigree is certainly not in doubt. Given the style of some of the games, probably their age could be guessed at too.
Yeah. It says something very interesting about the nature of the temple, though. Like you called it sort of like it's a holodeck. It's very interesting that they can manipulate that physical space. I mean, I guess because Rose's room it exists in there, that's not too much of a surprise, but it's very interesting that they could create one in there. It's not some kind of innate thing where each of them is tied to a room through some kind of natural accident. It seems like it can at least be very intentional.
Yeah, and they used all of the door gem to open except for Rose and Stevens this time. So there are different ways to get into different parts of the temple, possibly.
Yeah, that was very interesting. They're all standing there activating the points on the star, and it opens as a combined door for all of them.
And
very interesting.
Even if a new way for the door itself to open.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Wonder if it would look like that if Alexandrite wanted to go in there.
Well, yeah.
I think she wouldn't be able to fit, honestly.
Well, yeah, she'd have, unless she can do some kind of ferret thing and just squeeze herself through.
Yeah. But this was definitely like presented as if it was an intentional temporary creation of them for this purpose. So and it is really interesting because that's something we haven't seen before is, usually is one character, one room, but clearly not the rule.
I guess this is kind of like a communal space, which in this case is where three of them built the course.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely new information that they can do that.
It seemed a fairly short obstacle course, but I think that's at least partly because we've got an 11-minute episode.
Yeah. Yeah, them each having their own little room, and it can seem like very intimidating and thorough if you're actually the one going through it and you're running through flames and jumping over pits and stuff. This thing where they referenced the events of Cheeseburger Backpack, this is also like, this episode has been talked about a lot, like by the people who work on the show and podcasts and stuff. They wanted to revisit that because they did think of like the Cheeseburger Backpack adventure as being presented like a test, and that at the end, that's kind of why nobody was mad at him, and they were all very gentle with him about, no, you did fine, everything was good, and you fell under pressure, you did good 50%, 75% with the raft, that some people questioned that originally, like, why weren't they angry that he messed up this historical site? Like, he really screwed it up and nobody punished him, nobody said anything, but they decided, like, at the time, they didn't know they were going to get at least 26 more episodes ordered, so they're like, now that we have more time, let's revisit that. Let's talk about the manifestation of that as a test and have him find out that they were testing him. So that, I think that's really cool. They didn't initially say, like, we got to do an episode like this, but they're like, now that we have room, let's do it.
And show Stephen development of a child who must be secretly tested to someone who can at least be made aware that such tests exist, even if it was by accident, thanks to Pearl blabbing.
Oh gosh, Pearl. She seemed really angsty about the game that they were playing too. She was just like, this doesn't make sense. I can't ring the dinner bell.
I noticed that game was Kitchen Calamity with 2 C's on the instructions and with a KC on the cards.
I noticed that too, yes. Kitchen Calamity, the hunger is real.
I'm sure many have tried to recreate that game.
I don't know that I have seen anyone, but I've seen people say, like, could we, or what kind of game is this maybe based on, or something like that. I don't think it's based on anything specific. I didn't recognize it, but I did appreciate Garnet's little interaction there. She picks a card and says, I am now the owner of Golden Cano. Yes. So cute.
The other games with the funny names like Polly Polly, Don't Wake Father Figure, Non-Invasive Operation.
Yes. Toppler. I'm not sure what Settlers of Eldermore were, but the other references were pretty clear.
There's probably Settlers of Catan.
You think?
Yeah, well,
Could be.
yeah.
That makes sense. Not that sorry.
Yeah.
I always thought the commercials for Don't Wake Daddy, the real game, were really a little bit disturbing. I'm like, you can't wake your father up or he'll be angry. Like, ooh,
Yeah,
we're playing a game about this?
a very mid-century view of parenting.
Yeah. I'd rather play something civilized like Operation, where this guy is just laying on the table and he seems to be awake and all of his organs are exposed.
Yeah.
I liked the skill of that game, but I did not like the depiction of it. It freaked me out. I didn't like that. Especially that you're removing his wishbone and all of his organs. You're removing them. Like, that's the whole purpose, is you're taking his organs out.
You're not putting
And if
anything
you
back.
touch the sides, his nose buzzes.
Which is apparently him screaming because he's noticed you're taking out part of him.
I don't understand games from the 80s.
Mousetrap looks positively humane now.
Yeah, I enjoyed setting up the mouse traps.
Well, yeah, no one I know ever actually played the game. It was always just building the mousetrap.
Yeah, pretty much. I did try to play it, but it was just more fun to build the mousetrap. Yeah, it's what it is. So we have some continuity here with opening on the hole in the roof that's been patched up. And this is actually why, because originally when these aired, Warp Tour aired first and then Alone Together and then this episode. And so I guess probably the way they rearranged the intended order, they wanted these two to be next to each other, the tests right after Warp Tour, so that you could immediately reference that hole in the ceiling was from that Robonoid thing coming through the ceiling. And just patched it up.
That was a good little touch.
Yeah, it definitely makes it feel like even though this was not a plotty episode, it makes you feel like, okay, they're still acknowledging that these plot things are happening and that they're recent in the memory of the characters. I wonder who patched that up. Probably Greg.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That was pretty practical, but I don't think we've seen her doing carpentry yet.
Yeah, not exactly. She's made some spaceships and that's about it. So she'll probably be like, Greg, get up there and fix your son's room.
Amethyst would have just put a huge wad of gum in it or something.
How would Garnet fix it? She'd just probably put a tub under it for leaks.
Yeah.
Either that or just randomly have a superpower where she'd shoot I-beams at it or something. There, it's fixed. I'm a badass in yet another way that you didn't know.
I have super carpentry powers.
Yeah, probably. You're very interesting. So, yeah, what do you think of everybody's little test rooms? Amethyst's looking like an Indiana Jones thing.
Yeah, and with a giant replica of her own head. So
her head, yes, with her mouth wide open, barfing out a boulder.
And with amethyst covered flame, yep, that was her.
Yep.
I mean, Stephen basically said, a music puzzle, that's Pearl. So
yeah. And, I was actually very surprised that there was anything deadly in that room afterwards as he's walking the stairs and there's these swinging axes. Kind of would have been more Pearlish, I guess, if they were swords or something, but whatever.
Reflects that occasional weird dark side she occasionally lets out.
One of the weapons in her room was an axe. So I think it was maybe a hatchet.
And Garnet just isn't screwing around. Look, there's fire and pit and huge spikes that can squash you.
Yeah, it did look a lot like the one they did together when Stephen took a nap. Serious Stephen. She's probably just like, okay, copy paste. Stephen had his little pun. Looks like Garnet turned up the heat. Good one, Stephen.
Yeah.
He tells him. I like those little reward balloons as he solved each one and the little star-shaped balloons come out.
Yeah.
Cool.
And another very video game thing, just stars and things appearing when you make an achievement.
Yeah, a little video game ditty and everything. Although, how did he go backwards? Because there were those bars that came up like a video game. And then he went backwards anyway. Maybe they disappeared.
They can probably walk straight through them, I figured.
There you go. That's probably an actual canon explanation rather than they just forgot. You should be able to walk through everything. Although the boulder didn't go through him, it was repelled by him, which is interesting. That was a little bit inconsistent. Like some of the stuff was real, like the spiky columns that were coming down on Stephen. Rather than going through him, it stopped before it hit him, whereas the fire was all like an illusion, I guess. Or it moved around him. And those hatchet things in Pearl's room went right through him.
And there was the pit that wasn't, where he was just standing on an invisible floor or something like that.
Yeah. I just, again, I feel like they could have made it possible to fail that without hurting him. But I mean, I guess that wasn't their point. They wanted him to have the experience of winning. I just wonder what they thought was going to happen if he made a mistake, if he tripped and fell and landed on an empty pit, except he's floating over it. It's like, it's very easy for him to notice that this was not lethal and find out and be mad at y'all.
Yeah, I guess they just didn't think that through, though by their own admission, they weren't entirely sure what they were doing.
Yeah. Did you have a theory on kind of what he was going to do as he was marching through there, how he was going to react? Did you think he was going to confront them?
I think he was going to confront. He may even have originally been intending to confront them. I thought he only had his change of heart while he was actually stooped down. Mm-hmm. And that's where sort of, I know, he's probably churning in the back of his mind, and he realized, it's better for everyone if I make them feel good about this than if I make them feel bad about it.
And I'm wondering what he would do with that feeling afterwards. Like, would he go tell Connie or tell his dad that this happened, or would he just push it down and be like, can't talk to anyone about this, no one will understand because there's no one like me?
I guess it partly depends on how angry he stayed. I mean, often anger is pretty intense in the first moment or two, I gather. So we don't know if he was still really angry a while later, or if he processed it and was able to deal with it without necessarily clamping it down. But yeah, he may have gone and talked to Connie or someone, or dealt with his frustrations on an actual video game and taken it out on some pixels.
I wish that he did have like a habit of talking to someone else about some of the things that he feels, because it seems like at this point he has some experiences that he can't share with anyone, and he always just puts other people's welfare before his.
We've seen on times like Alone Together that he does go and talk to Connie about his various gem and training experiences. So he's not completely locking everything away. And Connie has been shown that she sometimes can show him a rational viewpoint he hasn't necessarily considered, or asked the questions he needs to ask himself.
Yeah. And I think of all the people that he knows, she seems like the obvious choice to be the person that he shows his heart to, essentially. Sure is better than a journal. She talks back.
Yeah. Well, and she's pretty smart.
Yeah. And, compassionate too. And I'm glad that he has her. I wish that he would. This episode really just made me think he is holding stuff away from people he should be able to trust with his feelings. And I don't know, maybe he just thinks that Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl would freak out or feel like they're bad parents or just feel alienated or something. But, I guess it would have been awkward to say, I'm glad you didn't kill me, but I know what y'all did. And, but he didn't want them to know that that wasn't what he needed, or that it didn't help him. He just switched gears and he's like, oh, they need their confidence raised, and I'll just put mine to the side. And that does happen sometimes with kids who live in uncertain circumstances or have very permissive parents or immature parents sometimes, like that they end up sort of almost like caretakers. And we've seen him act that way with both Amethyst and Pearl.
They said in so many words that there is no guidebook, and Stephen's mother is not around to tell them how to do things. So you can kind of forgive them that they're flying a bit blind in these circumstances.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I don't doubt that they thought they were doing the right thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's nothing malicious about it. It just does make me sad that he's not feeling like he can be truthful about this because he's putting their needs before his. And that's very unfortunately mature for someone his age.
Yeah, there is that. So I'm kind of hoping he did at least go to have a word of Connie afterwards.
That would be nice. It's just, so...
I mean, we know by now that next episode won't be Stephen talks out his feelings about what the gems just did to him.
Yeah. Thinking about a lot of different things that have happened in the past where he kind of took responsibility for being kind of the group's peacemaker. He probably just figured that's what he was doing, is things will be peaceful this way. I'm angry, but I would prefer to pretend I'm not because I want the family to be at peace, and this will cause strife.
Probably some of his mother's influence there.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, his father's influence would probably be to go, oh, well, whatever, I'm going to go play guitar.
I do think that Greg is pretty compassionate. He doesn't usually know what the heck to do, but, at least, he's also a safe person to talk to.
Yeah, I'm more thinking if this had been Greg had happened to, he just doesn't seem to have the energy to hold a grudge.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, too much work.
Oh, yeah. He is a real low-key kind of just go with the flow kind of guy.
So he wouldn't bottle it up so much as just blow it off.
Yeah, it sort of seems like he doesn't let things bother him very much. They just kind of slide off him. And, he knows the gems don't think highly of him. And he's like, well, I guess it is what it is.
Like, I'd rather that wasn't so, but what am I going to do?
Yeah. He's a sweetheart, Greg Universe. I miss him. We haven't seen him in a little while.
I was just thinking that.
When's the last time we saw him? Watermelon Steven?
So? Yeah, that was
And that was him hanging out with his son and then stepping in his progeny.
But also being literally laid back at the start.
Yeah. I don't think we've seen him since then. It's not that many episodes ago. That was only like 3 episodes ago. But it seems like longer. I like me some Mr. Universe. Let's see. In all of this complex relationship stuff, I'm trying to think what kind of weird question of a deep probing nature I could come up with.
Well, while you're chewing on that, the end bit really reminded me of the last episode of Evangelion.
That was absolutely intentional. Anime nerds.
I thought it might be knowing this lot, but you can only so much have everyone standing around in a black background applauding and saying congratulations over and over before you have to own up to it.
With the theme song playing.
Yeah, the piano version has...
Yep. They really could not have been more blatant.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's one of those things that even if you don't really know the details of the show, you know about that.
Yeah.
Follow-up questions!
Okay, so after Steven wants a test, right? This is my probing question. Steven wants a test, and they kind of look at each other, and it's like, okay, they agreed. And then there's sort of a cut, and then we come back, and they're ready. I'm curious what you think their planning session about how to test him might have sounded like. Do you think they all agreed that the test needed to be fake, or how do you think that would have...
Amethyst showed some reluctance for the rigged test, so she was probably persuaded or outvoted or something. In fact, being as
really, Caleb? Come on.
In fact, she probably had to be talked round to even the initial idea that actual dangerous tests would be a bad idea, rigged or otherwise. Pearl probably had to be talked down from the other angle of being too cautious, or maybe not wanting it to look too hard because she doesn't want to hurt his feelings or make him feel bad about himself even along the way. Yeah.
So her music puzzle was solved no matter what he pressed.
And in fact, maybe she originally only thought of the music puzzle, which couldn't actually have hurt him at all until the others pointed out how it has to work. And so that occasional strange part of her kicked back in and she went, okay, giant flying axes. And they went, oh, yep, okay. Garnet probably went away and then just came back with this room full of fire and spikes and heat and goodness knows what else. And they were like, yeah, that's good.
We'll make that the final dungeon. I really do wonder sometimes about what the conversations sound like. I think I'm wondering this largely on this episode because we did see a private conversation between the three of them. And I'm wondering what other ones would sound like.
Yeah, I don't think to date we've had anything much not through Stephen's eyes, or at least witnessed by Stephen's.
Yeah. Nothing that I can think of at this point. But that's the whole kind of way that the show is supposed to work, is that everything is his perspective. And people have complained about that, but I rather like it. I think it's, maybe not exactly inventive, because having a perspective character is very common in fiction, but I like that in a medium like animation where you could draw something that's happening in a different location and just show it to us. They choose not to do that. They find some way that he will experience it, even if it's something like imagining what Garnet does all day. They'll show us a little slideshow of him telling the story.
Yeah, well, Lars and Sadie's personal moments, it turns out he's just been sitting right there all along.
Right. Yeah, even though we got some camera angles that he clearly did not get, we still know how he saw it.
Yeah, well, he's not literally on screen all the time, but
Right. No, he's not on screen. That's true.
he's usually around. We can take as read.
Yep. Yeah, we can assume that he's there to witness whatever's going on if it's not directed at him. Yeah.
And I'm sure this is creating comments as someone goes, but there's this episode and there's like a whole half a minute scene and he's not in because he hasn't walked in the room yet.
Yeah, the show does have some little scenes like that where they say they bend it a little bit if it's right before or right after he leaves somewhere, that they let that slide a little. But normally it's pretty tied to his perspective. And I don't think any of those scenes have happened yet.
And
so.
I mean, when you're dealing with such an expansive world with all these episodes, sooner or later something like that's going to come up. And so you've got to decide, is this a hard and fast rule or just a thing we do?
Right. It also makes flashbacks, if they're going to do any flashbacks, very difficult.
Yeah.
Because then they have to find a way for it to be relayed to Stephen in a reasonable way that you could say he's imagining this or he's being shown this somehow or there's a photograph or something. So, but I remember recently that Rebecca Sugar had talked about in an interview somewhere that she really likes restrictions like that because you have to be really creative to figure out how to tell a story in those. So
yeah, a lot of creators do like a restriction so they can find their way around it without finding their way around it.
Yeah. So, you want to talk about the music?
Let's talk about the music.
No singing.
No singing. Again. Well, since we've had a song, I'm sure we'll get one soon enough.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the next one.
Oh, there we go.
Not too far off. But in this one, I guess it was mostly the cool background music that accompanied him going through the dungeons. The one where he's kind of marching toward them with his kind of angry face is called Decisive Path, but I don't know if the other pieces have names.
Yeah.
So that is all I have to say about music, but I do really like the way they incorporated the tiles he was stepping on into the background music.
I really liked the Ava-fied version of the theme music at the end.
Yeah.
With the plain piano.
Ah, yes. I appreciated that too. I don't think they included that on the instrumental soundtrack. There are a lot of things they didn't include on that, which I was surprised with 45 tracks or something on the instrumental one that was just released. There were a lot of tracks that I specifically remember, like the Secret Team. When we watched that episode 29, it's that Secret Team, dun, 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 spy kind of theme. It's not on there. I'm so sad. So, but I don't think this is on there either. I definitely know that the piano theme is not on there. It's too bad.
Darn.
Darn indeed. There's also no food and I'm hungry. There's a whole kitchen calamity game, but they're talking about sponges covered in mold and dice that look like sunny side up eggs.
Yeah, that was the closest to food we got was the eggs.
Yeah.
On the dice.
Yeah. That dice roller that looked like a blender was cool.
Yeah, I like that.
It was cool. Yeah, so with no singing and no food, what am I supposed to talk about?
I think that leaves us with factoids and merchandise.
If only I had known that!
The borders for this are Hillary Florido and Katie Mitroff again. They most recently, the one that we saw that they did was Alone Together with Rebecca. So they've got a good batting average so far. I've loved everything they've done so far on the show. Secret Team was the first that they worked together. And what else did they do? Is this it? Yeah, I think that's it. So this is like their third episode together. So I wrote down the description that they gave us for this one. And it says, Stephen finds out that his mission to the lunar sea spire was a test and demands a new one.
That seems fair.
Yes.
You could say it spoils the revelation about the sea spire, but it's like half a minute in.
It's true. I do like how it's revealed through Pearl stammering her way through vaguely insulting things.
Oh, yeah. I love Pearl's just dig up, Pearl, dig up.
Yes.
All the way through that.
She really is very awkward sometimes, the way that she talks to Stephen and accidentally says things. Oh.
Well, I think when something she says goes badly and she didn't expect it to, then she kind of loses control of what the next thing she's going to say is, and in the process often makes it go even more badly.
I think you're right. That's Pearl. Or it could be like in Serious Stephen when she shoved her bubble back into her head. Too bad she didn't do that with this.
We got some pearlograms this week. We haven't seen that in a while. For some reason, I've got a soft spot for them.
Oh, yeah. That image that she did of the three of them waiting at the end in simplified forms. She's made herself look like a little flagpole.
Yeah, I was like, what is that? Oh, that's her nose. It's not like a golf flag.
It's funny how she breaks down their shapes. It's cute. Yeah. So... even though this is kind of a big episode, there's not that much content to discuss about it. So I think the only thing I have left for you is a merchandise item, right?
Yeah, well, I noticed when I summarized, I was like, I did kind of go through that kind of quick, but not much actually happens because there's so much character beats.
Right. And conceptually.
There's only so much in terms of events and occurrences.
Yeah.
And it is one of those episodes that's a bit of the opposite of the usual ones where you go, a lot of them you look back and go, was that only 11 minutes? And this time I kind of went, did that really take 11 minutes to get through?
Brand spanking new, mint in box.
But anyway, yeah, as you say, the merch, the loot, the booty.
I struggled a bit with this one because there was something I really wanted to show you and I realized I couldn't. There exists a Steven Universe Monopoly game, and I thought it would be really great to bring it out on this one because they were playing board games, but I can't because the box has spoilers on it. I'm like, really, y'all? You had to put spoilers on here?
The one place you don't just put the stock images of the main four characters.
So it's unfortunate because that would have been the perfect thing. And so I have to disclose that I was totally going to do that. And I made a little note because now that this is our 38th, technically 39th, because we did the pilot episode of this podcast, I have to make a list. So I made a little list of the merchandise I've already featured so that I don't already do it. Like I still kind of decide before we do it what I'm going to show you, but I don't want to repeat stuff. And so I wrote this down on there and then realized I couldn't. I went to go get it so I could have it next to my computer. And there's spoilers on this box. I cannot show this to you. So I picked a different game-like thing, which was, it's a word game. It's the Steven Universe Mad Libs.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah. So we're going to say the world's greatest word game?
I believe so.
Yep.
They're terrible. It's really the only Steven Universe tie-in thing that I'm very much not impressed with. And it kills me to say that because I'm sure love went into it. And, it has a person's work on it. It says by Walter Burns. But I felt like if I had come across this as a kid and I was a fan of the show as a kid, which isn't possible because I'm old, but it would have been one of those things where I would have looked at these things and I would be like, this is written by an adult who has not watched the show. And I'm offended because I feel like they just kind of read the story notes and maybe watched an episode and then just figured it would be fun to just write this, even though a lot of stuff contradicts the canon. And I know that it's just a silly word game, but as a kid, I would have been irritated.
Yeah, I've seen a few bits.
I'm irritated as an adult. I own it, okay?
I've seen a few bits of merchandise for other things like that where someone was just sort of got the license and wasn't checked too hard, or obviously there was a due date and they had no time to fix things.
Right. Here's one, Breakfast with the Gems. And it's like they're playing hide and seek or something. And Steven manages to catch Amethyst by promising her food. Like there's food in the thing and her gem starts glowing because that's what happens when she's hungry. And I'm like, nuh-uh. That's how he finds her, is the giveaway glow. And I'm like, that does not happen. You're lying.
Yeah, I know. I'd buy it if the giveaway was she said like, oh yeah, I'd love some hot dogs now. Because that she'd do.
Right. Like she smells it cooking and she has to come out to eat it.
No, hunger mood ring gems we have not seen.
That's right. I think there was another thing in here, though, because I heard the crew people were talking about how funny this was because they laughed about this, too. They didn't talk crap about it like I'm doing, but there's one in here about Garnet winning a surfing contest or something. And they're like, Garnet needs to surf. And I'm like, yes, I would pay money to see Garnet surfing.
I'm imagining her, like that Batman episode, I'm imagining her wearing Bermuda shorts over her full gem outfit.
I need this. I need fan fiction of this. I can't say that I have seen anything quite like that, although somebody else that I like on the internet has drawn fan art of Garnet surfing. And that was really adorable.
I certainly don't doubt Garnet would be good at surfing.
Yeah, she's kind of good at everything except maybe talking to moms on the phone. Yeah, there it is. Garnet goes surfing. So this might surprise you, but Garnet loves to surf. I guess it surprises me a little because she's kind of the one with the aesthetic of lava and fire.
Maybe she learned to surf on lava.
Yeah.
So even though this might surprise you as a bit of a, I acknowledge I don't actually know what I'm doing.
Right. Says she learned to surf on another planet where the sport is used to elect the next president or something. It just bugs me. Whatever. So I think my favorite in here, because I've reviewed all of these, my favorite in here was like an apology letter that had to go out to everybody who came to a disastrous party of theirs or something. And I'm like, yeah, this would happen. They would have to apologize for parties. I mean, that's happened.
If they had to write an apology letter, Pearl would get one of those books about how to write letters for certain situations.
Oh my goodness. I'm sure she has it in her head somewhere. Whoop. Here's the crazy thing that I pulled out of my head this week.
Which for some reason, someone gave me one of those for my birthday when I was like 10.
It did? A letter for all occasions book?
Yeah, I don't know. Did they think I'd be writing a lot of letters or if they thought I was bad at it? But it was stuff you don't think about, or at least I didn't think about when I was 10, like, thank you for coming to the dinner party I've hosted.
When I was a teenager, my mom gave me a sexual etiquette book.
Etiquette.
That just goes to show you. Another thing some of us do not need.
I'm just thinking how most etiquette books work and sexualizing it in my head, and it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like sending someone a thank you note afterwards.
Yeah. I don't know. I have to admit, I don't think I ever read it. So, checklist for saving the world, Mad Lib. There's one in here for Greg and the one-man band. Oh, Mad Lib, the case of the missing cheeseburger backpack.
Well, that would be serious.
You know, there's references. There's all kinds of references. And like, I kind of feel bad saying that I'm annoyed by how non-canon the Mad Libs are. Because, I mean, it could have been somebody who's very familiar with the show and just said, so what? It's Mad Libs. People are making up half of it. So,
well, yeah.
You know, I could be being very mean, but I think I only gave it 3 stars on Amazon. And as a general rule, I give all the other tie-ins at least 4. Mm-hmm.
Well, there's always a questionable canon when it comes to like recreational items.
Mm-hmm.
Like people are talking about whether various video games are canon in things. They go, oh, so it's all a video game canon, like including the 3 times I completely screwed it up and fell down the first hole.
You've now written history for your show.
Yeah.
All these times that you killed the character. Mm-hmm. Seems like most of the other tie-ins and stuff are written by people who have a lot of familiarity with the show, or at least they don't necessarily need a lot of familiarity to make the nature of the book. But it's most of the other ones, even when they're just stuff like puzzle books and things and they're decorated with stock art and all that junk, it's still fun and seems on brand for it. But all these references to Garnet learning to surf on another planet and Amethyst glowing when she's hungry, and I don't remember what else. There's a recipe for fish stew pizza in here, but it's full of blanks for noun and adjective put on your pizza, which honestly, fish stew pizza sounds like a Mad Lib, doesn't it?
I think I mentioned it in passing to someone else. It's just in talking about what we done on podcasts, and
fish stew pizza?
Like, is that fish and stew and pizza? Or is that fish stew and pizza? Or is that fish stew on pizza? Or is that fish and stew pizza?
The stew part, I haven't really seen evidence of. It looks like normal pizza to me. It doesn't look very stewy. So maybe they stewed the fish before they put it on the pizza.
Yeah, I mean, I guess once you turn it into a pizza topping, there's only so much stew about it.
Right. Aw. One of these Mad Libs called Gem Fusion references Alone Together, which we both really liked. It's such a great episode. It ends with, you are an blank. Now make sure you're a good blank. Now go have fun. Make sure you're a good dog.
You are an abomination.
Oh my God. Oh, I'm sure that Garnet would never say that to Stevani. Maybe only in a Mad Lib.
Yeah. Pearl was that close to saying it.
Yeah, she did call them inappropriate, didn't she?
Yeah. Which is probably the same thing for her.
You broke a rule of appropriateness. You're going to hell. So that is the story of my merchandise for you. Ta-da! Steven Universe Mad Libs. $3.99. I actually own 2 of these. One of my sisters bought me one as a gift and found out quickly why you can't do that. Because I already have everything. So the good news is something like that you can use more than one of if you can play it.
Sure, if you're in the right mood, it's fun to get silly with them.
Yeah, I used to really, really enjoy Mad Libs when I was a kid. And part of it was just, using vaguely dirty words for everything. So,
Well, yeah, I definitely remember doing that at, 13, 41.
I was probably like 8 years old when I started just filling everything in. Everything was like either armpit or some euphemism for genitals. And the kind of messed up part of it is that like doing Mad Libs with my mom is what taught me how to do that. So I have a very vivid memory of doing Mad Libs with my mom, and there was a lot of dirty stuff in it. And I was sitting on the side of the bathtub while we were doing this, and I fell into the empty bathtub laughing so hard at one of the Mad Libs that my mother did. I don't remember if it hurt. I just remember falling. I have 2 childhood memories of falling off of something because of laughing. And that was with them.
That's good. You're such a cheerful child.
Yes. The other was also my mother's fault. So my mom is a funny lady. So she is still around, and I'm thinking about what kind of ridiculous videotape she would have left me if that was not the case. It would not be publicly consumable. I can tell you that much.
I don't know where you find a pink lion in Florida. Maybe a pink one.
Where do you find that in Beach City?
Maybe a pink one of those little Paris dogs.
Oh, that's a good idea.
If it was my mum, would it be a pink border collie?
Ah, dog person, huh?
Yeah. The rest of my family are dog people except me.
Yeah, I think my family are all dog people too, but I don't really do pets. I am satisfied by cooing over adorable pictures of other people's pets.
That's fair.
Yeah. I like the independence of cats. So I'm kind of like an honorary cat lady, but I'm unfortunately pretty allergic to most cats, and I don't know how to tell which ones I'm not. So
someone had their cat in a backpack on the tram yesterday. So cute.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It was a huge one where the cat could like lie down, and the cat was just so chill about it.
That's awesome. I like that cats take care of their own bathroom business, and then you can take care of their bathroom business whenever it's convenient for you. Dogs flipping out when they can't do their business is one of the reasons I have issues with dogs.
Apparently some dogs can be trained to use a litter.
Oh, I've never heard of that. But, dogs are pretty trainable, so just here they don't like it.
I guess it depends on the dog.
They are people, except they're not. Well, what else do we have to say about the test? Anything?
I think we got it covered because, as we said, there's a lot of deep character stuff, but not much actually occurred.
You are correct. Yeah, I think I psychoanalyzed the crap out of Stephen to my own satisfaction. And I guess we can plan to reconvene for the next one. Are we spoiling the title on the next one or no?
Let's go off the title. Give me something to muse on.
It's called Future Vision.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
So there's a future vision of your future vision.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's about just the sort of thing we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. So that's our future. Season 1 of Steven Universe is 52 episodes. Actually, I have to figure out how I'm going to do the ending of it. I want to do it in the intended order, but there's a weird special episode that's not canon that I'm not sure where to subject you to that. And I do mean subject you to that. People have different philosophies on it, but it is technically a season 1 episode. It just doesn't really belong anywhere, so I'm not sure what to do with it. And we talked about that though, didn't we?
Yeah, he said it was the April Fool one
because
I knew that Cartoon Network were into doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I guess if we include that in something, I can't imagine that we would have a whole lot of deep stuff to say about it. So I guess we should wrap this one up, huh?
Yeah.
All right, we're done testing for the day. I hope I got an A.
Thank you all for joining us.
All of you. Yes, and tune in next time for Future Vision.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. You've been listening to Ivy and Daria on Not So Giant Women.
You can find episodes of the show in video form by looking up Not So Giant Women on YouTube.
Or in audio form at anchor.fm/NotSoGiantWomen or your podcatcher of choice. You can also find us on Facebook.
Audio production by Daria.
Video production and music by Ivy.
Daria can also be heard on Podsploitation, the Ozploitation podcast.
And Ivy at her Steven Universe fan blog at love-takes-work.tumblr.com.
Steven Universe was created by Rebecca Sugar and remains property of Cartoon Network.
No infringement is intended.
Thank you for joining all of us, joining us all.